this month, the annual headline inflation for Uganda, we're registering it at 3.0%, which is slightly higher than what we had for the year ending March, which was 2.8%. And going into the details, we have the annual core inflation, which was one of the main causes of that higher up movement. In April, it was up by 3.0% compared to the year ending March, when it was up by 2.9%. And looking at the drivers for that annual core inflation, we had the annual services inflation, which is up 4.1% compared to 4.0% for the year ending March 2026. And then the annual core goods inflation, this registered the 2.0%, which was the same we registered for the year ending March 2026. The drivers for the annual services inflation. We had passenger transport service inflation charges, which are up by 4.2% for the year ending April, compared to 0.6% for the year ending March 2026. And then we also have the restaurants, cafes, and the like inflation charges, which was up 4.1% in April compared to the year ending March, which was 3.8%. The drivers, what were the drivers for the annual core goods inflation? We had fish and seafood inflation charges that were up 9.1% for the year ending April 2026, compared to 2.6% for the year ending March 2026. Live chicken inflation charges up by 4.0, to register the 4.0% for April 2026, compared to the minus 0.3% drop for the year ending March 2026. Cassava flour price changes also registered 0.4% increase for April 2026, the year ending, compared to the drop of 5.0% for the year ending March 2026. And then cement, we've also seen a rise of 0.7% for the year ending April 2026, compared to the minus 2.5% change that we registered for the year ending March 2026. Annual headline inflation continued. Looking at the annual food crops and the rated items inflation, we had a 0.6%. We have a 0.6% increase for the year ending April 2026, compared to the 1.0% for the year ending March 2026. So it's a slower increase. The drivers for food crops and related items inflation. Here we have tomato price changes. We have a minus 18.7% for the year ending April 2026, compared to the minus 13.0% for the year ending March 2026. It is a higher slowing of the price change. That's fresh beans price changes. We have minus 13.3% for the year ending April 2026, compared to what we had in March of minus 1.0%. the drivers for annual food crops and related items inflation. We have brown potatoes, Irish potato price changes. For the year ending April 2026, we registered a 6.7% increase compared to the 10.9% increase we registered for the year ending March 2026. Green cabbage price changes also registered 17.9% increase for the year ending April 2026 compared to the 24.3% for the year ending March 2026. Sweet potatoes, we registered a minus 1.3% for the year ending April 2026 compared to 0.7% increase for the year ending March 2026. Looking at annual energy, fuel, and utilities inflation, we have a 6.1% increase for the year ending April 2026 compared to the 4.1% increase for the year ending March 2026. And in particular, petrol price changes, we had a 8.7%, we have a 8.7% for the year ending April 2026 compared to what we had in March of 4.4%. Diesel, we have 10.8% increase for the year ending April 2026 compared to the 3.0% that we had for March. Kerosene, 7.5% increase for the year ending April 2026 compared to the 0.1% that we had for the year ending March 2026. And also charcoal price changes, we had a 9.0% compared to the 8.1% for the year ending March. 9.0% in April compared to the 8.1% for the year ending March 2026. In summary, that is what we had for the headline, core, other goods and services, and then the food crops and related items, and energy, fuel, and utilities. So those are the groups we have been looking at and going into the details of what the drivers were in the specific groups. And over the years, for the 12 months since March last year, that is how we have been, the inflation we have been registering. And the highest we had was in September 2025, for the year ending September at 4.0%. And the lowest was for the year ending last month, which was at 2.8%. Looking at the annual changes in the consumer price indices for the COICOP divisions, that is what we had. The percentage change between March 2025 and March 2026, and then that annual change of between April 2025 and April 2026. I think you look at it at your appropriate time. You can see the rates are not very different, they are close. Now we go to the monthly consumer price index. Beginning with the monthly headline inflation, this month of April, we have registered a 0.6% price increase compared to inflation compared to March 2026. And in March, we had a 0.1% inflation rate. The monthly core inflation in April is at 0.5%, up from March figure of 0%. In March, the prices were stable compared to February. Overall, when you measure it in terms of inflation, it was stable. And the drivers for the core monthly inflation, we had mainly the services inflation, and then also the core goods inflation. Now the services inflation in April, we registered a 0.5% increase when compared to March. And then in March, we registered a 0.1% increase. Core goods inflation in April, we registered 0.5% increase. And in March, it was a negative 0.1%. What were the services for the monthly service inflation drivers? Restaurants, cafes, and the like inflation charges up 0.5% this month of April compared to the zero stable rate for March 2026. Passenger transport service inflation charges this month have registered an increase of 2.6% compared to the 0.2% that we had last month. Monthly other goods inflation drivers, we have beef and beef prices, and meat and beef prices at 2.0% for April compared to 1.3% for March. Maize flour prices, 1.7% increase in April compared to the 0.6% decrease in March. Rice prices increased by 1.8% in April compared to the increase of 0.9% in March 2026. Then the fish and other seafood inflation changes. In April, we registered a 2.9% increase for that group compared to the minus 2.9% we registered in March. Looking at the monthly food crops and related items inflation in that category, April registered a 0.9% increase compared to the 0.3% increase for March. And what were the drivers for the monthly food crops and related items inflation? Dried beans prices was one of the drivers, and this one's increased by 2.5% in April compared to the 1.0% in March. Matoke prices, this one's increased by 8.6% in April compared to the drop we had last month, so March, of 1.0%. Onion prices increased by 3.0% in April 2026 compared to the drop of 5.3% we had last month. Cassava, the fresh cassava, prices increased by 3.4% compared to the drop of 1.4% in March. Monthly energy, fuel, and utilities inflation. Overall, we have seen an increase of 1.8% compared to the March increase of 1.0%. And specifically looking at the items in this category, fuel price changes for the months of April 2026, petrol price changes for the months of 2026 were at 4.2% compared to the March, which was at 0.8%. Diesel price changes for the months of April were at 8.2% compared to the 2.3% for March. Kerosene, we have seen the price change by 6.9% for the months of April compared to the 0.1% for the months of March. Charcoal, we're seeing an increase of 1.0% for the months of April, which is slightly lower than the 1.6% we registered in March 2026. And then firewood, we have registered 0.8% price change for the months of April compared to the 3.5% we had in March. Overall, monthly CPI and rates of inflation are there for the last 12 months, for the last 1 year, plus 2 months or so. So they have ranged between minus 0.1 and the current one, what you have registered now, the 0.6. I think you'll get copies of that if you want to internalize. You look at them. And the monthly average retail prices of selected commodities, that is how they have behaved. We have seen a consistent increase in beef, which has now reached 18.054 from March last year when we had it at 16.664. We have also seen a consistent increase in mukene, rice. I think it's tilapia is where we have seen a drop now compared to the same period last year. And yeah, that's how the average prices have behaved in the last 12 months of these selected commodities. The annual headline inflation by CPI Geographical Center, which ones have been highest, which one was the lowest? Masaka registered the highest inflation of 4.1%. This is annual for the 12 months to April 2026, compared to 3.6% that was recorded for the year ending March 2026. And this was mainly driven by the annual food and non-alcoholic beverages inflation that increased to 1.8% for the year ending April 2026 compared to 1.8% in March 2026. In addition, annual transport inflation increased to 5.0% in April compared to 3.9% in March. Kampala high income at 3.8% for the 12 months to April 2026 compared to the 3.3% recorded in March 2026 came as number 2. This was mainly driven by annual transport inflation that increased to 4.5% in April 2026 compared to the 2.1% for the year ending March 2026. In addition, annual food and non-alcoholic beverages inflation increased to 5.3% compared to 4.6% registered in March 2026. Mbale at 1.0% for the 12 months to April 2026 compared to 1.0% in March 2026 registered the least annual increase in terms of from the geographical centers. And this was mainly driven by annual food and non-alcoholic beverage inflation that registered minus 0.3% for the year ending April compared to 0.3% registered for the year ending March 2026. So same rate. In addition, annual restaurants and accommodation services inflation registered minus 1.1% in April compared to 0.5% registered in March 2026. Graphically, that is how the different geographical centers behaved. We've already talked of Kampala high income, Masaka, and Mbale. And then that's how the others behaved. I think you'll get copies of that and you'll be able to look at them and internalize. The next release will be on Friday, 29th May 2026. I thank you.